Okay, thank you, Rachel. Appreciate that, and good to see everybody. We had what I thought was another productive weekend. We were in Louisville this past weekend and lost to the currently number 4 team. I'm guessing they'll be number 3 this week based on what happened in the sport of volleyball. Louisville was really, really good, and then we turned around and beat a pretty good, much improved Xavier team on Saturday. And I think we continue to learn a lot. The most exciting thing about this team is that we're a work in progress. We have a lot of new moving parts that are playing, and I feel good about the direction we're going. The one constant that we have had, or one of the constants we've had, is that our serving, passing, and defense has been pretty good. And when you lose Otech and Horning and Terwilliger and Newton, who have all been a big piece of that, and then you still maintain those areas as a strength, that allows your other parts of the game to be successful. So I'm excited about that, and we're just barely over 2 weeks into this season, and we're sitting at 7-1. And if we play particularly well this weekend, we can be 9-1 in non-conference going into the Big Ten season, and I feel like that's pretty good for a brand new ball club. So again, Ball State, Northern Kentucky this weekend, and Ball State is a team that went to the second round of the NCAA tournament last year. They have virtually everybody back. They've lost one match this season. That was to Mississippi State, who's a really good team. And then Northern Kentucky was picked to win their conference, but they've loaded up their schedule, and they're playing a lot of really good teams. So their record does not indicate how good they are right now. But that's who we play on Thursday. So it's a Thursday-Saturday week on the home court of Holloway Gym. So, Sam, go ahead.
Obviously, Louisville, as you mentioned, is a powerhouse program. Was kind of the timing right for this group to play a team of that caliber? You run through some teams, you have a couple tough matches, and then you face a powerhouse that you've got to see before Big Ten play.
Yeah, I think in some ways the timing was really good, because I think that we had built enough confidence that it gave us a chance to compete against them. I would prefer to wait until we're at the top of our game, which I think will be at the end of the season. But maybe we will see them again at the end of the season. That would not surprise me, that we would be maybe matched up in an NCAA tournament match with them at some point. But yeah, I feel like we've been tested some, but obviously we haven't played anybody with that kind of an ability. Last year, Louisville was the number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, the overall number 1 seed. And they replaced their setter with a transfer from USC, and I don't think they missed a beat. And so the only real player position that they lost was one middle hitting position. And then they replaced that with a girl that was pretty good on Friday night, who we hadn't seen much of. So, I felt good about the way we competed against Louisville. In each set, the 3 sets we lost, there was a spurt that we got outscored maybe 5-0. Or 6-1, something like that. And we just have to figure out, as we grow as a team, how to eliminate the good teams from taking advantage of you for those spurts.
Just to be back at home, how important is that? Obviously you get great crowds here, and I think that the team, for years and years has always said how that really hypes them up. And, hopefully now you see them respond from a loss and bounce back pretty well, and now you get 2 more matches before you start conference.
Yeah, and like you said, I think you learn and grow a little bit more on the road sometimes than you will at home, because it is a more comfortable culture and environment. But we have, one of the best places to play in the country in Holloway Gym, and I'm sure we'll sell out for both these matches. One of them is already sold out, and I think the other one has to be getting very, very close. So I know we'll have great crowds. Our students will be back. Last time we were at home, it was Labor Day weekend, and I think that some of them probably took some time to go home. And I think that we'll be rocking the students this weekend. They got a pretty good product to support, and we love them, and so we're hoping they'll come out in full force.
Obviously, Kelly Miller is somebody you've probably known her entire volleyball life anyway.
Yeah.
Was she in your first recruiting class here? I can't remember now.
She was in our second recruiting class. When I left Muncie Central High School, she had finished her sophomore career or sophomore season, and then I came here. She had 2 more years to play at Muncie Central, but she was, I think, the first person that I fully knew was going to come to Purdue. She wasn't able to come until she graduated from Central High School.
How did you see her evolve when you took her on as a student assistant? And I'm sure you kind of always knew she had a coaching mentality. I think you used her as an outside hitter initially.
Yeah.
Moved her to libero at some point in her career, and she, excelled at both of those spots.
Well, she's one of the all-time best competitors that I've ever coached. I mean, she was all business and never took a play off, never took a day off, just wanted to learn all the time and wanted to get better and compete and wanted this team to do well, this program to do well. I was so fortunate in those first couple of classes to get some unbelievable high-character people to come in and help us build this program early, because I truly believe if you don't get it done early, you may not get it done. You may be pushed out the door pretty quick. And yet, we found some really good people in those first 2 classes that helped us have some success early, and then it's just kind of carried over from there. But she's got a coaching mind. Her dad was a really good athlete, and she spent a lot of time around athletics. They love the Cincinnati Reds. They go to a Reds game about every week. So she understands sports and athletics, but she's I think changed her demeanor a little bit to I think make her players feel more comfortable as she's gone through this as a head coach. And I think that she used to be kind of a no-nonsense coach, and she still is, but I think she's become a little more open to athletes and making them feel a lot better about their experience and have more fun.
I imagine unless Ball State is playing Purdue, you're rooting for Ball State with all your ties there. Just how special is it every time you match up, whether, your brother's coaching, whether Kelly's coaching, you have connections to probably a lot of players on that team still, and obviously coaches.
Well, they recruit so heavily out of the state of Indiana, and they have a lot of players from right there in the Muncie and the Delaware County area, and I do know a lot of people. I've always known their assistant coaches, and even the new assistant coaches they just hired. She had to hire 2 new assistants. Tiffany Fisher, who had been their assistant coach, Tiffany Fisher Coors, resigned this summer to take a teaching coaching job I think in Plainfield or Brownsburg, one of the 2, and I think it's in Plainfield. And then their other coach took the assistant job at Mississippi State. So she had to find 2 new coaches, but she did. And they're good people that are going to help her win a lot of matches. And as I mentioned, they're the favorite to win the MAC on their side, the MAC West, and then Bowling Green's the favorite on the other side. So it's always fun to play your alma mater. I mean, I do have a major investment in Ball State University, and that's why I like to play them, because there'll be a lot of people that will come over from Muncie, and it'll be fun to see them. But it's not a lot of fun unless you win the match, and that's what our intention will be.
Coach?
Yes.
I was kind of going back to that Louisville game a little bit.
Yeah.
And some of the things that caused those point runs. One thing with DeBeer being at, the helm of a lights-out offense there, she shared kills. I think she had 10 and the other person had 10 leading there. Is there something to be said for being able to balance an offense and having, the kills and total attacks spread out over a multitude of people, kind of compared to just focusing on, 1 or 2?
Yeah, if you have a team that has a lot of talent, which Louisville is at the top of their game right now. Louisville's always been really, really good, but they've got more talent right now than they've ever had. So when you have 2 outside hitters like they have, Chaussee and DeBeer, and they've got the opposite player like Jones that was, I think, maybe DeBeer and Jones were the highest picks for Player of the Year in that particular league, the ACC. And then you've got middles that are, one kid's a senior that goes off 1 foot and flies, and it's hard to defend. And then they have a plethora of other middles that they've been rotating in that spot. So yeah, it makes it much harder to defend a team that spreads their sets around and has capable people. Now, if you spread your sets around, but some of the people that you're getting the ball to aren't very good, that's not a very good plan, okay? And so, yeah, they were hard to defend, and that's why we got caught in some situations where our block did not look as good as I wanted it to, because this was the first time we played somebody that we didn't feel like we could really load up our block on. We had to be more of a read block situation and just, do the very best we could in that situation. So there were times where they set their middle hitter right in front of the setter, and they were tattooing balls because we only had one middle up. And, we've got some things we can work on, and defensively what you're talking about is one of those things. How can we be better at defending teams like we're going to see in the Big Ten that have, three great hitters in the front row all the time, plus somebody coming out of the back row, which is what Louisville did. So as Sam King had mentioned, from a learning experience, it was ideal for us to play a team that has that kind of a potent offense.
Gotcha. You mentioned before that there were a few people vying for 2 spots. I think they're on the right side. I think it was Ellis and Cook. After this weekend, is there any major developments you'd seen? Ellis had a great
Well, yeah,
game against Xavier.
Emma Ellis had a tremendous weekend, and it was great to see her break out of what I considered her to be kind of in a funk. And so to see her compete when she knew she had to for our team, because we didn't have a full roster. Maddie Cook was out with a health issue, and then as we go into Saturday's game, Maddie Chin had been injured in that match against Louisville in the start of the third set. And so she couldn't go on Saturday. So we were really without 2 of our, better pin hitters. So it's taken a different look this week, because we're not 100% sure where we're going to be with those people until we get a little bit later in the week. But I was happy that Rastovsky came in and played really, really well in her first start of her career. Emily's a redshirt freshman, and it was great to see her. She plays with a lot of enthusiasm and has a high ceiling. And then also Lourdes Myers filled one of those spots for the third set, and she's gotten some playing time this year, and I think she'll continue to get better as we go.
Gotcha. And then lastly, this week, coming out defensively for the team, what are some things you're looking at? Coming off that first pass, getting it set up. Hornung got quite a few digs and touches there as well.
Yeah, Hornung was really good all weekend long. She's been a real pleasant surprise that her game has improved so much since her freshman season. And but defensively, it will start with our blocking. I just feel like we have to do better blocking. We have the physicality to be pretty good blocking, although we didn't have Maddie Cook, who's one of our better blockers, probably our best pin blocker. We didn't have her, so that was a little bit of a factor. But our middles just we all have to read and get in better positioning. And again, this is a fairly inexperienced team as far as playing in matches for Purdue. It's not inexperienced as far as how long they've been at Purdue or in our gym, but a lot of them have not been in these positions. So to go to Louisville and play in front of a really big crowd against a really good team, we got caught with our pants down a couple times. So we got to make sure that we're in better position to defend people than what we were on that particular day. So it's kind of defense starts with the serve, serving the ball extremely tough. If you serve the ball extremely tough and consistently get it in tough, you're really putting them in a problem. And I thought we did a pretty good job with Louisville. They were out of system a high percentage of the time, forced the ball to their outside hitters or their back row hitter, and I thought we did okay with that. Then it gets to your block and then your backcourt defense. And I think our backcourt defense is one of our bright spots right now, because we've got all of our ball control people playing pretty well, and that's something that we have to have moving on.
Gotcha. Sorry, I just thought of one more quick one.
Sure.
On that note, Maddie had talked about before that Louisville game, one of the focuses of getting them out of system on the serve.
Yeah.
You'd mentioned that you'd gotten them out a number of times on that serve. I was actually curious, just from a standpoint of the definition there, at what point do you consider Louisville out of system if they still get it to the outside setter?
Yeah, it's a great question. Anytime that the opponent cannot get the ball to their middle hitter in a functional fashion, they're out of system, okay? Because ideally you want to have all of your options. So it'd be similar to a quarterback that drops back to pass, and all of a sudden the rush prevents him from having all the time he wants to hit all of his receivers. So that's kind of what we're talking about, is if that setter has to run beyond the 10-foot line or 15 feet toward either sideline, all of a sudden now they can't run the system and have all the options that they want. And so you want them to have to set the ball to the outside hitter, because then you should be able to have 2 blockers in front of that person to kind of contain them a little bit. Great question. Yeah.
Two more games that. Sorry.
It's all right.
2 more games, and then you enter Big Ten conference play. You touched on a bit with that, but what are the issues you're looking to address, and then some positions you're looking to cement before getting into the Big Ten conference play?
Again, the injury thing is going to have a lot to do with how quickly we kind of get everything set and dry. But I think we've got enough depth on this team that there's going to be some movement throughout the entire season. I'm hoping that some of our younger players will continue to develop. Lourdes Myers would be a good example of that. Rastovsky would be a good example of that. Meg Renner's improvement as a setter. Again, she's now been a starting setter for 8 matches in her career. And in football terms, that's like 2 games. It'd be like having somebody, you've started 2 games now, so how good can you expect that person to be compared to what they're going to be down the road? So I think our time with her and her watching tape and gaining confidence will be really, really important to her development. Like I said, the ball control aspect has been tremendous. And so I think that's put us ahead of the curve, in my opinion. I don't think a lot of people expected us to necessarily be where we are right now. And if we can win the 2 coming up on the home boards this weekend, it'd be 9-1 going into Big Ten play. I think I told somebody earlier today I'd have paid good money to be 9-1. So that doesn't mean I'm going to be really paying anybody any money, but it's just a phrase. But I'm excited about where we are, and if we can play well this weekend, we'll be in a pretty good position going into the Big Ten. Thank you.
Dave, what's your philosophy on putting together a non-conference schedule?
Well, it's become, Tim, one of the hardest things to do as a coach, because you have to get people on your schedule that are going to be good enough to challenge you because you're playing in the Big Ten. They have to have RPI factors that are going to allow your RPI to be really, really good, because that's what the NCAA committee looks at, 99.9%, okay? And then you have to win matches, okay? So finding that formula is really, really important. That first weekend, were we ready to go down with this new team and beat Tennessee and beat Loyola and Bowling Green? I wasn't sure, but we did. And because of that, eventually that's going to really help us, because those 3 teams are all going to win a bunch of matches. And then our tournament, you beat Utah. Utah lost to San Diego Saturday night, 15-11, I think, in the 5th set, and San Diego's going to be in the top 10 this week. So that Utah match eventually will help us, because they're going to win their share down the road. So it's a matter of finding teams that you have a decent chance of beating, that are going to win a bunch of matches, and then try to get as many of those at home. Because our RPI in volleyball doesn't show any difference between home and away. So if we could do it, we would probably do 3 tournaments at home and 1 on the road. But it's hard to get people to come here. Now, all these schools that are doing really well, that are mid-majors or even low programs, if they're winning a bunch of matches, people are paying good money to get them to come to their gym to play because of the RPI.
Related to that, does the portal make it a bigger challenge? Because you may not know, as you put your schedule together, what team you'll have that fall. You may think 2 years from now we're going to have X, but you don't know who's coming and going.
At our school or their school? I mean, I think that, we've had some stability here, but you don't know when you get on there how many people have left that school that you thought was going to be really good, that might be a mid-major, and how many people are coming into, like Penn State had a phenomenal transfer year. They brought in some really, really good players that are going to make them a lot better. Penn State just beat Stanford and Oregon this past weekend, and so they're going to jump up in the top 12 or 13 in the poll. So it's hard to predict now. You just kind of have to go with, I think, tradition and the history of some of those programs, and trust those coaches at those schools that they're going to get the job done, because you can't lay an egg and have 2 or 3 teams that win 8 matches all year. It just screws your entire opportunity to get a decent RPI.
That's all I got.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.